My neighbors keep invading my property. Now I'll make them regret that. I moved into a detached townhouse a few months ago. It's a rental. I'm leasing it for a year with the option to extend that with the second year or possibly buy the house. My driveway is right next to the neighbors. It's big enough to fit two regular-size cars, and halfway down my driveway, there's a path leading around my house. On the side of the path is my house, on the other sides, about 3 meters of yard. That's mine. Ever since I moved in, I've been having issues with the neighbors using my driveway for parking, turning their cars, storing their other stuff, playing, etc., etc. Asking them to stop using it and keep their items on their own property has not worked. So I placed a few large plants, installed a camera and a no trespassing sign, and that helped a bit. At least the cars are gone. The last few weeks with the stay-home advice, I've been working from home, but the neighbors' kids are making that really hard. They're about 5 and 7 boys, and they keep ringing my doorbell multiple times a day to ask if they can play with my dog, if I want to play with them, or anything else they can think of. I asked them to stop it so I can work, which of course didn't work. So I asked their parents, and was told boys will be boys, and they weren't going to do anything about it. To keep my sanity intact, I removed the battery from the doorbell, but now, they keep running around in my front yard, on the path around the house, banging on my windows, banging on my doors, and actually tried to open the gate to my backyard this morning as they heard me in there. I once again asked them to stop. Told them I will not be allowing them to play with the dog anymore at all if they keep this up, and they left, sending over their dad. I told him to keep the boys away from my property and door. If not, I'll be planting some prickly bushes to teach them to stay away from other people's property and shut the door in his face. Wibta, if I actually did that. I'd love to place a fence or something, but as it may be a short-term rental, have to be able to return everything in its original state for now. Edit. I'm getting a lot of comments about social distancing and lack of isolation of the boys. I'm from the EU. Country isn't on lockdown, and it's or was. I'm not 100% sure anymore. Advised to let small children play outside. Update. About a week after my post, I planted a wall of blackberries and raspberries at the two sides of my garden facing the driveway, about 30 centimeters from the edge, so no overhanging branches. On the other side of the berry wall, planted lots stuff like strawberries and tomatoes. To reach the tomatoes and strawberries from the driveway, you have either go through the fruit bushes or walk up to my house, walk about 2 meters along the side of the house and my windows, and then walk into my actual garden. Not something you do by mistake. For about 2 weeks, it was somewhat quiet, but I still found the kids on my driveway every single day. As far as I know, they did not enter the garden, and I hadn't noticed them walking around my house anymore, so I figured the bushes were working. About 1 week ago, berry season started and my bushes are now full of raspberries, and there's lots of strawberries as well. The neighbors noticed. First, I caught the boys picking and eating raspberries, so I told them off and dropped them off at home. Told their mom I caught them stealing, that's how I see it even though it's fruit, and that I'd call the cops next time. She huffed and told me to grow up, but took the boys inside anyway. After that, it was quiet up until yesterday afternoon, when I went out for a while and found the dad and his 2 sons right in the middle of my garden when I returned, clearing my bushes and plants. I didn't even confront them, just called the cops from a distance as they hadn't noticed me yet and started filming them after making the call. Luckily, 2 cops showed up after 10 minutes or so, and they confronted the neighbor as they were still picking berries. They told them they were trespassing and that the berry picking was in fact considered stealing, and that I could press charges. For the first time, I noticed a bit of fear in my neighbor. He was having trouble finding his words and kept looking back at his house, I guess hoping his wife would show to yell at the cops. They all went inside with the cops, so I just went home as well. After a while, the cops came by and asked me if I wanted to press charges. I asked them if they felt like they scared the neighbor enough to stay away. I got a small smile and yes about him, but the wife had just kept shouting at them and her husband about the little B word living next door. I told them no for now, Asked them if I'd be allowed to get an extra camera set up on the wall between my garden and the road to cover the entire front garden and driveway. They said that's allowed as long as it's on my side of the wall. So, now I'm getting an extra camera installed. One neighbor knows I'm done messing around, but his wife isn't there yet. And if I ever catch any of them again, the cops will be called and possible charges will follow.